Well, as you may have heard, Aaron has joined me at the desk. So noisy.
Just getting in, you know. Come on. What do you think?
With a start on the US presidential election, Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, has endorsed Republican Donald Trump. The International New York Times, on one of many papers reporting on that, and the rhetoric has galvanised Muslim people to get out and vote as well.
Yeah. The Japan Times writes that 5 new sports are set to feature at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Meanwhile, US cyclist excuse me if I've got that wrong, Tejay Van Garderen says he won't be going to this year's Rio Games because of the Zika virus.
OPEC has again failed to reach an agreement on a production cap for oil. Well, The Guardian reports cheaper oil has airlines on cloud 9. It's looking to be the industry's most lucrative year. Good news for some, I suppose.
Some, I guess, right. Energy of a different kind in the Gulf news because Dubai plans to build the world's largest concentrated solar power project on a single site. Officials say it'll slash carbon emissions and produce inexpensive electricity.
The Wall Street Journal is looking at a referendum being held in Switzerland this weekend to give everyone, rich and poor, a universal monthly allowance. It's expected to be around $2,500.
And the Financial Times writes about the gender pay gap, which apparently starts as early as childhood, because research suggests that when parents hand out pocket money, sons get given more money than daughters. Apparently they're better negotiators or something.
So it starts young.
That's what, yeah.
It starts with an equal pay. No wonder why it's not going away.
Listen to Switzerland. I don't know, we'll talk about that.
I'm sure Rolake has got plenty to say about that from Head of Energy and Natural Resources at FBN Quest. Thank you for coming in and joining us. We're just going to start with the International New York Times. It's fascinating, isn't it? A lot of American Muslims who haven't voted before feeling the need to vote.
Yeah, and I think this is inevitable. When you've had such strong rhetoric from both sides of the political divide, actually, it's been interesting because research suggests that it's a lot easier to mobilize American Muslims than other minority groups such as Hispanics or African Americans who've been historically disenfranchised. And the population of Muslims in the States is almost 1 million. It's almost 3.3 million, which is about 3% of the population. So it could actually make some impact on the ground. And particularly because many of the Muslim in the Muslim community are now looking at not just the national elections, but the primaries as well, right, where the stakes can be quite high, actually.
Do you think this election, given everything that's surrounded with Trump and all the hoo-ha that goes with that we'll see a huge turnout?
I mean, really, the interesting thing is fear. Fear-mongering tends to galvanize people, and the focus has always been focusing on the negative, so vote for us to avoid this. And I think people tend to respond, particularly in this climate, with the history we're seeing with Islamophobia in the States over the last decade and what has happened since September 11. I think we'll probably see a lot more movement with Muslim advocacy groups.
Yeah. And Hillary Clinton using the word dangerous a lot when she refers to Donald Trump.
And she's really played well into that particular slant of rhetoric as well.
Skateboarding, surfing, sports climbing, and karate. I thought karate was one.
And that's just a Saturday morning for
Aaron. It sounds like...
Come on over!
It sounds like holiday sports have been incorporated into the Olympics. But, you know, I mean, this is really interesting. 5 new sports have been introduced for Tokyo 2020. And I think there's a certain degree of trying to also appease the home country, because baseball, for instance, is quite a popular sport in Japan.
Isn't it about trying to attract young people to the Olympics?
Attracting young people, and also from a financial perspective, it actually broadens the scope of sponsorship. Yeah. If you think about who would sponsor a typical Major League Baseball game, for instance. But it still has to be ratified, actually, at the next sitting of the Olympic Committee. So we shall see. But I think it could very well change the course of things.
Did you actually take note of that photograph? Is there any chance of you putting that photograph back up on the paper or not?
It's like hidden, crouching tiger, whatever you call it. Crouching hidden tiger.
And actually, this is from Somalia, Mogadishu in Somalia. Yeah. So I think a lot of these sports are becoming very global. And also, it might increase representation of women as well in many sports.
There it is.
Yeah.
He's on a wire. He's on a wire.
He can't be on a wire.
No, it's just captured in the air.
It's a phenomenal photo. Phenomenal photo. Let's talk airlines, one of my favourite subjects. Yeah, OK, given that they're going to do better because oil's down, right? Oil is one of their biggest costs, I mean, for an airline, of course. What's interesting is when you look at the profits, you know, the US carriers some years ago were all struggling, really struggling. They're the big winners now, aren't
They're
they?
the big winners, and it's interesting because this is part of what I call the double-edged sword of the shale oil and gas boom. Because airlines in the past typically had to hedge their aviation jet fuel purchases. If you look between 2011 and 2014, when oil prices were, $100 a barrel, it was a significantly difficult time for profits. But profits are now up 12%. But particularly in North America, European profits have basically remained around the same level. And I think there's been some sort of challenges with sort of consumer certainty around this terrorism and others. But also the flip side of this is when you look at business travel on the high-end part of the market, business class and first-class flights, particularly for oil and gas companies, demand has also fallen because in the oil and gas industry, we're seeing some headwinds there, obviously. But I think it's a very great time, and I think they certainly should reap the benefits while it lasts.
From a dirty energy to a cleaner energy in the Gulf News. See what I did there, Aaron?
Very good. Chris, you should take this up as a job.
Yeah, I've been trying a long time. Dubai plans record solar energy project. This is interesting because yesterday here on BBC World News we were talking about how solar energy has been taken up at record levels across the world, except for Europe.
Yeah, except for Europe, but also, I mean, it's not just Dubai. If you look in Asia, in Africa, I mean, up till now, Morocco had the status as the largest solar project in the world, and Dubai is clearly planning to diversify significantly as part of a broader UAE strategy. So it's not too surprising. I think the expectation is that in 10, 20 years' time, at least 20% of the energy will be generated from renewable sources.
It's astonishing, isn't it, the difference? The turnaround. This Swiss story I'm fascinated by this Swiss story. There's pros and cons to it, but I kind of, and I'm, to the right, if you will. I think there's more pros than cons with it.
I mean, let's take the Swiss example. It's a very unique example. It's not the sort of policy that would find easy ground, even in terms of discussion across other parts of Europe. Equality from an economic perspective is a lot less glaring in places like Switzerland. And if you look at what the policy is saying, it's saying equal pay at a basic income level regardless of your economic status. One argument is it will incentivize employers to pay for higher wages in jobs that people typically, such as care work, wouldn't go to. On the other hand, it might actually incentivize people not just to seek jobs. So really, I think the debate is fairly evenly divided. But there's a poll that suggests that this probably about 60% of Swiss nationals will probably not vote in favour right now at this time.
Okay.
And it would be quite expensive at 25 billion.
An extra 25 billion, that's what it's going to cost the Swiss government. Did you negotiate pocket money?
I did actually, and I think I probably did get more than my sister. Gender pay gap starts young as boys force a better deal on pocket money, says the Financial Times. So it starts young. Yeah, I mean, do you have any siblings? Male siblings?
I did, but it was really a question of you get what you ask for, right? Really. So I mean, the basis of this research is very interesting.
You don't know my parents.
Well, you should meet mine.
Yeah, love to.
But it's an interesting concept. We know the gender pay gap. There's about a 20% difference in incomes that women receive in the workplace over their lifetimes.
But I don't think this is about pocket money as well. It's about paper rounds and the jobs.
There's a softer issue around whether girls are less likely to ask for more pocket money. So I mean, it's an interesting story, but there's a bigger, more serious issue.
Well, Aki, great stuff as always. Good to see you. Safe journey back.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.